Hi, I'm Garbreak1, and this is Midgardia RPG's cool crowdfunding show. I'm here today with Paladin. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. Recovering from Gamehole Con right now, so I'm just a little fatigued from not seeing all these cool faces at the conventions.
I got a little bit of the con flu, huh?
Yeah, I got a little bit of a cough, so like while we're talking, I have a bottle of water that I'm just like, oh good, my salvation, please.
Yeah, fair enough. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your project, the Islands of Sina Una?
Sure. So Islands of Sina Una is a fifth edition compatible book based on pre-colonial Philippine mythology. We're stressing the pre-colonial bit because a lot of it got muddled up between colonialism and time. It takes a lot of effort to stay accurate to pre-colonialism mythology, but we feel it's worth it, and no one really covers it in depth.
Cool. So yeah, your project's meant to work, judging by the Indiegogo page, kind of equally well as a fifth edition supplement as a reference for pre-colonial Philippine mythology.
Yeah, one of the things that always bothered us when we're doing this research is that clearly we don't have a beef against like Norse mythology or Greek mythology because we're not freaks, I guess. Because like, sidebar, can you imagine being like upset at a mythology as a whole? Ugh. Um, but no, just it's not as widespread and it's not as known. And we were researching into this. We realized that no one really knows about this, even if they know of the mythology. It's very hard to get facts right. It's very hard to find out anything about it because a lot of materials aren't available in America. One example I have that I reference a lot because I'm frustrated by it still, despite me dealing with it like a month ago, was there's one book in particular that I'm hoping to get soon, and for me to get it in America, it costs $658 with $200 shipping and handling.
Oof.
And one of my researchers, Nosfakatu on Twitter, he has a copy of that book that he got for 100 pesos, which comes out to be $1.96. So that's one of the barriers and why not a lot of people know about Philippine mythology.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm a sucker for Norse mythology myself. Uh, Although I am, always looking to do more stuff than the. Well, I like Norse mythology, but it is really cool to see things from other cultures as well. Um, Norse mythology gets kind of a rough shake as well, but
Oh, I'm aware.
yeah,
I've read about it too.
Christianization did some bad things to it, man.
That's a real understatement.
Yeah, um, certainly a point of commonality here, I guess.
Yeah, that's it's like there's a lot of uncomfortable things around it, and it would be easier not to talk about it. But at least I can talk about it in a friendly kind of way with other people in the community.
Yeah,
So I have that going for me, which is nice.
yeah. We don't trying to like just talk about the mythology and the culture without also kind of talking about what colonialism did to it is hard and probably a disservice. Like, I'm Canadian. I live near a reservation. Like, I'm fully well aware of the horrible legacy of colonialism in all its various forms from all the various empires that have embarked upon it. But that's not what this is about.
I'll put in a sidebar. So, do you know who Ferdinand Magellan is?
Of the explorer,
The explorer, yeah.
not personally.
So, yeah, I mean, it'd be if you knew him personally, I'd have a few different questions. I'd have to flip this interview and go, por qué? What? But he went around the world, explored, and did a bunch of really bad stuff. And when we're doing this research, something that broke me and made me laugh for a good day and a half, was that he died on on the shores of the Philippines. There was a guy named Lapu Lapu who killed him, and they erected a statue of him. Um, and we thought that was so cool. It's kind of funny. And we found out today they're making this animated film of Magellan, and he's like this. The best comment I saw was a Walmart knockoff version of Flynn Rider from Entangled. And It's painting him as this huge hero that he's just this young boy who's out here trying to do some good, trying to see the world. And it's painting Lapu Lapu as this terrible, terrible villain. And we saw this morning, and we were crying like tears of panic, just like, oh no, it's happening again.
That's the worst. I mean, everybody's legacy is complicated. And, like, it's not, he wasn't necessarily intentionally one of history's worst bastards, but the effects of one's actions. I mean, I Magellan is not a specific focus of like my knowledge, but I'm gonna
Things
guess.
happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess things were bad for the most part.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit, yeah.
um, you have to kind of disentangle the like legacy of things discovered versus man, this guy was actually horrible.
Yeah, I remember in high school I read a history of the world. And just being able to have that kind of refresher on just how brutal people are compared to how we were taught in like elementary and middle school was really welcome, because when you grow up you start to look back on your life and start to see kind of the cracks in like how people had to rephrase things for a child. And
Yeah,
reading a history of the world kind of showed me why those cracks were there in a way that didn't make me resent the people who were telling me about these historical things in the first place, but also informing me of just the whole truth of the matter.
yeah. There's some of those things you're not gonna really comprehend when you're like 8 years old.
Or just like comprehend and cope with it in a very bad way.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, jumping back on topic, I'm making a book. It's hard.
yeah. It the,
That's about the best summary I have of it. Just it's hard.
all right. That's the interview having. No. So why don't you tell me about some of the Sina Una as a world and like the challenges of putting together pre-colonial mythology from a variety of sources into like a coherent fantasy world, or mostly coherent.
Some of the challenges of it.
Sure.
So first off, 7 languages, 4 dead languages, all split up into 185 ethno-linguistic groups.
Oh God.
So we're pulling from everywhere, because a lot of times people say, Philippine mythology, they're mostly pulling from just Tagalog mythology. And like, if you just pull from that, you're only getting 185th of the whole story. So we're not just pulling from Tagalog mythology in the Philippines, we're pulling from all over the place. And sometimes we'll get a piece of a story that we find in other groups, and we'll read them both and we'll go, so they're talking about the same thing, same paragraphs for like halfway down, and we'll get to like the fourth paragraph of story and go, okay, that radically changed. That became different. How do we cope? Um, One of the examples we have is there's a creature called Lampong, and it's this white-furred, one-eyed deer. It has that form and a form of like, depending on what you're looking at, the form of a small dwarf or gnome. And while in dwarf and gnome form, it takes care of the herd of deer that it's assigned, basically. Make sure they're taken care of, clean, fed, all kinds of safety stuff. And if a hunter appears, it turns into the deer form, and it draws their agitation or desire or hunger, and it compels the hunters to shoot it. And when it dies, it just discorporates into the earth and reappears with the herd. So it has like functional immortality as long as, there are herds of deer. Um, the issue is, depending on where you're looking from, either the gnome form is real or the deer form is real. One of them is just a form it assumes. Other versions, the deer form or the gnome form is the real form. And we were like, do we flip a coin? Is that what we do? Do we just go by majority vote? Which one is the real one?
So which one's the real one?
If you look at history, if you look at the world, we still don't know. But to make our lives easier, currently, and this might change, we're saying that the deer form is the real form, and it just takes the gnome form to just kind of take care of the herd with opposable thumbs.
That's fair. Those are handy.
Oh yeah, but I'm tish. Do you watch Adventure Time, by the way?
I've seen one episode ever.
There's this one episode. There's one character shows up once in the entire season, and whenever I think of creepy deer, I think of this character because it's
Right.
this deer that like it's walking around, it walks on hind legs, and then it takes off its hooves, and it's got little deer hands.
Yeah, I have a horribly corrupted version of the GIF of that on my computer for some reason.
Haha! Please don't share.
I won't.
Thank you. I I can only imagine some of the horror, and let me tell you, I don't need that cursed image on my computer. Um, but yeah, just sometimes deer can be a little creepy. But yeah, no, that's one of the issues we have. But then, like, there are these creatures in the mythology called celestial eaters, and it's a giant lion, a giant bird, a giant dragon, and a giant crab, and they're just immensely huge. And for one reason or another, they want to eat the moon. Because like in my mythology, they worship the sun. It's the life giver. It's the way of life. It's the warmth. And in Philippine mythology, there's this vibe that they worship the moon a lot because it gives them a chance to fight back against whatever's in the night.
All right. Yeah.
And if the moon ever went away, they would have such a severe disadvantage against protecting themselves. So celestial eaters, titanic monsters that, if not stopped, will ruin everything. And there's one of them, the crab, uh, called Tam Banokano, and it's this giant crab that rests in the ocean. It's the son of the sun and son of the moon, quarrels with its father, hates its mother, and it's so large that it's displacing the oceans. And when it, awakens from its sleep and stands up, all the oceans will recede because it's that large. And then it'll eat the moon. And we thought, okay, cool, celestial eater, nightmarish, got it. What's this fourth line here? In some cultures, it's a spider. What do you mean in some cultures it's a spider? That seems wildly different than the crab we just established. But in some parts, it's called Tambanokawa or Tambanokua, and it's still the son of the sun and son of the moon. But it's this giant continental-sized spider that crawls around in the depths of the world and will one day climb up and web the moon and start the eclipse. And we were screaming like, which one do we do? Which one do we do? Do we do the crab? Do we do the spider? Do we do the crab? And then we decided, you know what? It's D&D. We'll just have both. Make people panic. And so it's sometimes making an executive decision that we will have to explain in an appendix of ours. And other times it's just us going, por qué no los dos? Let's just do both.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, crabs are just underwater spiders when you think about
I don't need to think about it. Thank you for that thought.
it. You're welcome. I'm always glad to help expand people's perspectives.
As soon as this interview is over, I'm going to scream into the bathroom for like 5 minutes straight.
Nice. That's a successful interview.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Speaking of various names I'm not going to try pronouncing because I will screw them up, does this book have a pronunciation guide at the front?
Yes.
Oh, thank
Yeah, yes, it will. I, so part of the thing is we have to take all this culture, all this cultural lore and mythology, and make it into a presentable view form. And some of it is like making it a little PG-13 for Western audiences, because like we're not trying to make the Book of Blue Fantasy. Um, I'm so glad you know that is. I'm so glad you know what that is. Without me having to explain on this interview what that is. Um, if anybody who listens to this is wondering what that is, don't Google it up.
Just don't. If
Let
you
it
don't,
remain a mystery.
if you don't already know, it's fine.
Your life is no worse for not knowing. Um, Gosh, I lost my PG-13 for Western audiences, and making some things be more fantasy, be less unapproachable, and also halfway through we realized we have some trouble pronouncing it, and we are in this culture. We need to make sure people know how to say this stuff because they're not going to know in the slightest. So we will have a pronunciation guide. Right now, the only question is, do we put it in the front or the back? We're thinking the back because that's just where like the appendix is going to be, and we don't want to ruin the flow going from like table of contents into the contents of the book. But like if we don't put it in the front, they might miss it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
so that's
if you
we're
put it
gonna
near
have
the
one. Sorry, I'm interrupting. You
no,
first.
if you put it in the front, you know, if somebody opens this on a shelf at a game store or something, they see this giant list of like monsters with crazy names,
Right.
which can be a draw.
Yeah. So that's the only question right now of if we're putting it in the front or the back, because some of these names, I've gotten them down now, but they give me some trouble. Because we have like the best example I have for this is there are two monsters in the mythology, and one is this woman who will split herself just above the waist and then spread wings and will fly around trying to eat people. And there's another monster that is beautiful, curvaceous, just draws you in. No matter who you are, she will draw you in and bring her back to her hut, and then she'll eat your head. And one of them is the Mananankal, and the other one is the. It's bad that I can't like say it offhand without having to pause and like spell it out my head. So that's definitely why we have to have the pronunciation guide. But one of them is the Mananankal, and the other one is called the Mandarankal. And to have those side by side is probably going to make at least one person go, "Did they repeat the same word? What am I looking at here?" So we already have plenty of reason to include a pronunciation guide. Actually, in fact, the title itself was supposed to be one word and pronounced the same. So it's supposed to be pronounced Sina Una, but without the space. But the problem is, we know that if a Western audience saw Sina Una just as one word, they would pronounce it as Sinana.
Or see now, yeah.
Yeah, and I already have enough problems with kerning and letter faces when I used to see other businesses. I don't want to cause that kind of problem with my own work. So, Sina Una.
I deeply appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good layouts are unfortunately kind of hard to come by sometimes in this industry.
Actually, yeah, that reminds me. The best one I have, for example, is there's this vape shop that I have to pass by to go to my local gaming store,
Yeah.
and it's called a Veil Vapor. It's supposed to be kind of high end, but whenever I pass it, because of the letters they use and the how tightly spaced it is, a veil doesn't look like AVAL. It looks like there's no I, and the V looks like an N.
Acyl vapor?
Anal vapor,
Anal vapor.
which is like not what you want.
Not particularly.
Especially from a vape shop, that seems like not my thing.
That's fair.
But whenever I look at like kerning and typography for this book, I think let's not do that. Let's
Yeah.
especially not do that.
Yeah. I've read some stuff, both modern and older tabletop stuff, and it's just like I can't believe this went to press. This is freaking illegible. Shout out to mid 90s World of Darkness. I can't read your table of contents.
Shout out to Oriental Adventures. Why is everything in chopsticks?
3.5 or second edition. Oh wait, no, both.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So what other questions do you have for me?
Um, I'm just flipping through the Indiegogo now. Try not
Fair
to think
enough.
too much of 3.5 Oriental Adventures. It was a different time.
It was a different time, and I loved it as a kid. I absolutely loved Oriental Adventures as a kid because growing up there was never like anything that could resonate to as an Asian person. Um, and I loved it. And now that I'm older and I know the history of like the Empire of Japan, I'm a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, like in practice, these are very different places. And like to 3.5 Oriental Adventures credit, they do like in the introduction say, you know, if this wasn't a follow-on to a second edition book, it wouldn't have called it Oriental because that's not acceptable anymore.
No, it's not. But it was made with like good intentions, so I don't like I'm not vitriolic enough to be like They could have done something else. Nah. But
Yeah.
like, if you look at the sphere of influence they pulled from, where they pulled from like Korea and China and Indonesia and Thailand and the Philippines, and they put it all under like a Japanese coat of paint. If you look at a map of the Empire of Japan when they're going to their neighboring countries and conquistadoring them, if it was a Venn diagram, it would be a circle.
Yeah, it's yeah. The
Yeah.
Empire of Japan's legacy is, I mean, like every imperial. I was gonna say imperial empire, but that's a stupid set of words. Um, every every empire. I'm just gonna say every empire. It's horrifying.
hmm But we're making this because no one has really been doing it when we started, and we figure if no one else is going to do it, it should be us, and if we're going to do it, we should be doing it well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I deeply look forward to this. I do
Thank
have a
you.
couple of questions about some of the subclasses.
Yeah, go for it.
Can you tell me about the ranger one, who I'm not gonna try pronouncing? Um,
What do you want to know about it? Mangangaya? Yeah,
yeah,
Mangangaya.
they sound cool.
Uh, yeah, it's basically just a sea raider. It means someone who raids the sea, and we wanted to base it off of that kind of fighting style, that kind of focus, that kind of if you make a misstep, I will take advantage of it. The current design challenge is that, yeah, we're not going to shoehorn someone into always being good while they're on a boat. It's kind of like when you're playing these games and like, I have a mount, I have a horse, and someone goes, "We're going into a tavern." We don't want to. It's hard enough when you have a horse that can be on land. We don't want to make it uncomfortable to use this subclass by making you only good when you're using a boat. But we're basing it off of just if you can take advantage of someone's messed up, someone making a mistake on anything, that's your time to shine. If someone messes up,
Cool. So like bonuses if somebody misses an attack on you or that kind of thing.
I want to say yes, but like we have basically a dartboard of ideas for all of these because there's a lot of writing on a bunch of these, save for one of them. And we're trying to make sure that when we do finalize mechanics, they are solid. So I want to say yes because that's a generic enough thing for me to say yes to. But I don't know for sure yet.
Yeah, still the change. I got you.
Yeah,
And I assume the Warlock's Moon Eater patron is one of the like horrible celestial eating beasts that we talked about earlier.
correct. I
Awesome.
don't know what gave it away.
I'm very perceptive. I watched a show about Sherlock Holmes last night, so I got this down.
Nice.
It it was a weird one.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of Sherlock Holmes spinoffs are very, very weird.
This one had Sherlock Holmes in the 23rd century fighting with a First Nations cowboy from the planet of New Texas who had the powers of puma and a bear and a wolf and a hawk. Uh,
If I may, Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. Is that the
yes.
one?
No, it's actually
Yeah.
not. It's an episode of Brave.
What?
It's an episode of Brave Star called Sherlock Holmes in the 23rd century,
Oh
which
my
came out
god.
a couple of years before Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. And I genuinely wonder if that was part of the reason that like somebody went, "Hey, that's actually a good idea," and
I'm
made.
in complete shock.
Yeah, no, and
Oh my god.
it's one of those that's like really obviously meant to be a like backdoor pilot for an actual series, but the studio shut down. So I think somebody looked at that and went, "Wait, no, that's a really good idea," and just cut out the horse that transforms into a dude and stuff like that.
That's amazing. I need to see that.
Oh man, yeah, it's bizarre. Anyway, this isn't about
Anyway,
Brave Star as much as I love Brave Star. So is the book going to come with like any adventures or anything like that?
yeah, currently we're including just a small one shot in the back of the book. Um when we were first starting doing this, we're talking about like, well, we could tie stretch goals into making that adventure bigger. And then we realized if it gets too big, we don't want to have someone move around a book that's essentially the player's handbook in Storm King's Thunder in size.
Yeah,
Cause like uh Beetle and Grimm's, they make those boxes, those very nice boxes for the adventures right now. And full disclosure, I do some design work for them. I'm working as the Inverness box. So
nice.
like take my stuff with a bit of bias, but Well, something that I absolutely adore is that they take the adventures and break them up into little booklets. Because it's very awkward, for me at least, to be holding up the actual like book of the adventure in my left hand, on the page that I need, and do everything else I need to be doing with my right hand. Um, so we didn't want to have someone have to hold the entirety of a source book and also an adventure in their left hand. So currently, all we're doing is we're putting a small one shot in the back of the book, and if we can, fund high enough, we would love to make a PDF of a larger adventure.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'm running Avernus right now, and one of the advantages of doing everything digitally is I do not have to hold everything in one hand.
Oh yeah, and with like the advent of D&D Beyond, being able to run the adventures out of like the phone and to click on stuff and just be, I have this monster now, is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's a very different experience to when I first started running D&D. You know, print everything off and carry it around in a binder with me.
Yup.
Man, I hope I printed out
Yup.
every monster they'll encounter. Oh no, I missed something. Oh no.
Oh yeah, I remember those. I started playing D&D when I was 10, and my dad raised me up on his stories of playing D&D when I was 3. So like I had 7 years of like being pumped up for D&D before I started playing, and another 3 years before I started running my own games. I remember I was just like printing out everything I could feasibly possibly use ever, and I wound up with like a binder that was like 2 inches thick of just printouts. And my library really hated their 10-cent printout page policy.
10 cents? Goddamn.
Oh yeah, they wanted to charge me more because I was just running them out of ink.
Should have taken that into account with your pricing, nerds.
Haha, I gamed the system. I got some more pages for my game.
Huzzah!
Yeah, but no, it's a much different world now, and I'm thankful that a lot more use has gone towards technology for this stuff. Because I would much rather hold my phone out than hold the book in my hand, despite me loving the feel of holding and reading a book.
Yeah, absolutely. And they look very nice on a shelf, which is one thing that digital products unfortunately don't.
I agree, he said, turning around and looking at like all the Hydro 74 covers that he got.
Unfortunately, your webcam's busted. Um,
Oh yeah, because it's like if the framing shot for it used to be like there's me and right beside my head in the view of it were my books.
yeah, I've got a bunch of miscellaneous junk strewn around me, as I'm sure you can see. Uh,
Really? Oh my god.
I know I'm very handsome and distracting.
I really do appreciate the ghost in the background.
Yeah, I'd only played like 3 hours of Destiny 2 when I picked it up, and I felt like kind of a poser just having it there. But I picked it up recently again, and it's really good. It's
Nice.
really good.
But yeah, we're making a PDF of the adventure as well. That's separate from just like the core rulebook. If you get the PDF stuff with it. And if we can get enough stretch goals, we can pay more money towards our writers and ourselves to make the adventure longer.
Cool.
Um, just because that stuff costs money.
Yeah, writing is
Yeah.
expensive and hard.
Writing is expensive, and right around the time we were figuring out the prices for our writers, Heidi Moore was talking very openly about people who were not being paid enough and companies that weren't paying enough. And while I'm sad that people have had a raw deal like that, I'm happy the discussion happened because it helped us figure out what we pay our writers.
Yeah, because one of the problems for smaller companies who don't want to screw people and also creators who don't want to get screwed but also don't want to drive away all their business is there wasn't really a good pricing guide for what this should cost until fairly recently and arguably not even now for both art
Yeah.
and writing.
Yeah, especially in like the TTRPG industry, there's a guy that I really look up to. I met him during the RPG Writers Workshop from Ashley Warren. He was my mentor in it, and I saw him talking in those threads, talking about how he only gets paid like 5 cents a word for his stuff,
Wow.
and that's real low. Um, and so we decided our standard rate, and it was a real delight because I was having to talk to our writers and say, hey, I need this, your name, your how you want to be categorized, how you want to be titled in the book, yada 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 yada. And also to ask them, hey, what's your base pay rate? What do you charge? And some of them said, some of them were saying, you know, like 5 cents a word. And I like my jokes, I like my pranks, and it was an absolute joy to be like, we need to talk about your rate. You know, it's really just unacceptable to us. And they're like, oh, well, I'm sorry. Our base pay is 10 cents. Are you okay with that? Um, and it's always a joy to be able to tell them that and follow up on it, because I mean, we're just two people working, we're making this book. I'm the closest thing that Monsters Incantation has to an employee, and I'm not even an employee. Um, and be able to tell people that we're going to be able to pay them a decent rate felt really, really nice.
Yeah, I bet.
And if you are a company out there listening to this and wondering how much should I pay someone, should I cheat them or pay them a fair rate? I definitely encourage you to pay them a fair rate and see how much they shine afterwards.
Yeah, and that's how you build somebody who like actually cares about the. That sounds bad. Um, you're more
No,
likely, yeah,
it's accurate. It's accurate. I'm a freelance graphic designer outside of this book, and I remember when I first started doing graphic design, I was very desperate and with a lot of low self-esteem towards myself and my work, and I let people take advantage of that. I was working for basically dirt cheap, and on every assignment, I just wanted it to be done and over with. I didn't want to talk to this person anymore, and I don't want to make other people feel like that if they work for me and Monsters Incantation.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, Similarly, I have a like hand drawn pin of one of my D&D characters, the
Yeah.
space princess up there, um, and
Ooh.
it was hand drawn by somebody at a con, and it's like it's got detail on the freckles, and it's like a standard pin, um, and she was charging like $5 for it or something. I looked at it after I got it, I'm like, you are not charging nearly enough for this. Here, take twice what you wanted. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah, because like right now I'm looking into making my own pins because I mean, why not at this point? Um, and the cost of production per pin to be charging $5 for it, that's not a lot of income.
Yeah, and like for probably about an hour's work, like hand drawing that unique pin, like that's not enough. And the next year,
Yeah,
like she thanked me a bunch, and the next year she did come back with better prices, and she still did a bunch of business. So
yeah, that's really nice to hear. That's really nice to hear.
she almost cried when I like gave her the additional money, but
Aw, that's nice of you.
eh, it was worth it. It's one of my prized possessions. It would not show up well on camera, so I'm not gonna go drag it out. But
That's fair. Could you do me a favor after this interview? Could you send me a picture of it?
yeah, for sure.
Because I'd love to like see the pin and see who made it.
Yeah, I can hook you up with her contact info as well. She does good work.
Thank
Um,
you.
but yeah, anything else you want to cover about Sina Una or the tabletop industry while we're here?
Oh gosh. That's a real open topic. Uh I guess just I haven't been part of this community all that long. I made my Twitter handle a little over a year ago as a joke because my screen name is HTT Paladin. And I was like, haha, I'm being a little clever. I'm making a little pun. It's a little joke. I like it. And like now it's created this internal pressure to be a decent human being. Uh which is, you know, the worst. Um but I'm really glad to be part of this community, and I'm really glad I get to talk to people who I talk to, because it's really nice to talk to people who are kind of on the same wavelength of like wanting to make games better. And I love Gen Con and I loved Gamehole Con, but most of all, I just love the fact that I can make more friends who are into this essentially hobby at the same level that I want to be. You included, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I do my best.
I mean, your best is good.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you, and I
Wonderful talking to you. I hope this makes for a good piece.
oh absolutely, and I hope this brings you some more funding. You guys are at like just under 20% right now by the looks of it.
Oh, let me go check, and then you can hear me squeal a little bit if we are at 20%. Hit refresh. Oh my god! Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and with 30 days to go, that's pretty good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, we're really excited for this. We really hope we fund, cause uh, between you and me, um, Lucia, Monsters Incantation, would like to have an easier time when making this book, as would I. Cause at no point are we going to try and skimp out on paying people, but we still want to make something that's high quality, and that will take money no matter what. And this just makes it a whole lot easier on both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, well, I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on, and for everybody watching
Of
at home,
course.
have a good night.
Bye.